Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news. Apologies for being a bit late. It is a bank holiday in the UK, which has caught me out completely. So I've sort of gone into weekend Sunday mode and 15 minutes late. So apologies for that, but we've got a packed show to get into. We're going to be talking shock transfer moves for Orkun Kökçü of Feyenoord. What a season Feyenoord are having in the Eredivisie at the moment. They are going to win that league and he is a big player for them. Who is he? Why are Man United interested in him? Is it just the Dutch connection with Erik ten Hag? Also, we'll be talking about David Raya. Victor Osimhen's been talking about his future as well. We've got an amazing bit about player ratings from the weekend. We know we've had a bad weekend in relation to VAR. You will not believe the player ratings that a certain outlet put up for the weekend. Tell me you didn't watch the game or tell me you're British bias in a set of player ratings. I think it's almost as bad as the VAR decisions that Brighton were victimised by at the weekend. Absolutely incredible that you, the consumer, can be fed total and utter horse crap. But we'll talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk about news. Is this crap? Is this a load of nonsense? Let's talk about it. So, we're going to talk about Orkun Kökçü. There is a sky. Amazingly, I think there's a FIFA clip for everything when it involves me, because we've had the Weghorst one. There's a bit of an Orkun Kökçü clip going out this morning. Fair play to the people who find these. I certainly don't remember them. Who is he? Where's he come from? And why is he being linked to Manchester United? Well, look, I'm not going to pretend. I think my definition of the situation with... I want to talk about Ahmad a little bit as well, but I think the definition of watching the Eredivisie at any length stopped when we've got Erik ten Hag. I'll be honest, I haven't got time to really even watch highlights of that league anymore, and I'll be honest, I haven't kept much of a touch on it. So my knowledge of Kökçü and my pronunciation of his name is probably completely wrong. But no, he's not a flash in the pan player. He has been around for a while, and he's yet another player from Feyenoord that's been scouted by a lot of clubs at the moment. Contracted till 2025, 22 years of age. Some people are, I think, wrongly identifying him as a replacement for Bruno. I don't see him as that. From what I knew of him a year or two ago, I didn't see him as an attacking midfielder. I always saw him as a midfielder. I always saw him as almost a deeper playmaker. So for me, I think he plays in the Eriksen role, not the Bruno role, the current Eriksen role or the current Fred role, which is next to Casemiro. I think that's what he is. I think he's quite an unorthodox midfielder. Certainly, I think he could be used as a 10, but I think his strengths really are more of a, box-to-box midfielder, get on the ball, take it off the back four, take it off the number 6, play in a pivot if needed, creative, brilliant set-piece taker. I think people are maybe falling into the trap that he's another Çalhanoğlu, but I don't think he is. I think he's got more depth to him. Literally, I think he's got more layers, and I think he's, somebody that could be utilised in that Eriksen position. Do I think Man United are in for him? Well, I think the reports coming in from, sources close to Feyenoord make you think... I always think like the McTominay story coming in from Newcastle outlets is very interesting. But I think this story is interesting. It's certainly one to keep an eye on. I'm not bothered about this. If this is the midfielder that Erik ten Hag wants instead of Frenkie de Jong, then go and get him. If this is the midfielder that he wants because he can't get Bellingham, then go and get him. Do I think we'll go and get him? I've got to be honest. My fear about this player is I don't think he betrays the physicality for the role that we would need. I.e., if he's going to be an Eriksen replacement, Eriksen's big problem is when you go and play at the Etihad or the Emirates, he can get overwhelmed because he's not really a physical midfielder and you can't just leave it to Casemiro. So I think you need someone with a bit of tenacity, a bit of bite in there. And I think that's probably, from what I've seen, Kökçü's weakness. I don't think he's particularly physical and I don't think he's particularly good in the tackle. On the ball, creativity... yeah, I think that's a positive. Hi, Mark. How are you doing? I support Feyenoord in the Dutch League, but Orkun is not good enough. He's reasonable in Eredivisie, but Premier League is too much. Well, that's very interesting from Connor. And hi, Mark. I tweet you a photo of my hamster Smudge with zero context. Will you RT and see how many likes we can get? The little fella, says Noel. I'm not so sure about that, Noel. I'll have a look later. We can do better than him, says G-Man. And happy Easter Monday, says the caveman. And clubs lobbying Premier League to stop nation-state linked takeover building among a number of top-flight clubs with Arsenal. Tim Lewis, a strong voice, says Chris Ryan. And look, we can talk about the ownership in a minute. There's a bit of an update coming from The Athletic this morning. Also, you say... I'm just trying to grab some comment on what we're actually talking about rather than hamsters and anything else. He's improving his physicality, says Phantom, and you pronounce it as KOKCU. Okay, I don't really care. I'm not really that bothered. It's part of my life that I don't really massively care about pronunciation of names. I know some people do. I had a name no one's ever got right in their life, so I really don't get bothered about pronunciation. I suppose if you're called Darren Smith, you might be quite interested in that, but we'll talk about Carragher in a minute. And Nautius says he isn't good enough. I think that at the end of the day, it's an interesting one. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because I don't actually think we'll end up signing him. But Feyenoord are having a good season. He is playing in the Eredivisie. Ten Hag will have a little book on players that are in that league that he thinks are going to be next level players. Therefore, I think this player, there's probably some substance to it. Maybe Erik ten Hag looks at it and goes, this is a player that in 2 or 3 years' time, when he's 25, is going to be one of the better midfielders in Europe. And this is a player that we should be looking at, Manchester United. Maybe Ten Hag looks at him and goes, yeah, he's a little bit raw, but there's development there and he can become a really good player. So I think that may well be something to keep an eye on. But Connor says he's not the player we need. And I certainly don't think, and Connor watches him a lot, I certainly don't think he's exciting as a Caicedo, as a McAllister, as a De Jong, as a Bellingham. I don't think so. But sometimes I think these types of signings, if it's what Ten Hag want, can be very exciting. And as I said, with Feyenoord at the moment, they're absolutely tearing up that league. So they've got to have some talent in there. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But an interesting, and I would describe it as a shock move if it was to happen. I really would. I think it would be really, really surprising if that happened. But you know what? Also, I don't want to be a hypocrite because I've said this a few times before. I think with Erik ten Hag, I do want him to just not go and buy the obvious players. I'd like to see some well-scouted players that have got a bit of development, that are a bit left field. But I think in that position, we do need major investment and we do need major strength next to Casemiro, because I think that it's interesting. There was a bit of a debate going on last night about Sabitzer, which was quite interesting on Twitter. I was reading it quite late last night, and there was a bit of a debate going on about Sabitzer, and some people were saying, oh, for 25 million, what a good signing he is, and then other people were saying we can do a lot better. And I suppose that's the sort of what this story's all about, isn't it? You can get a player like that, but there are a lot better out there this summer. And I agree, you know, Sabitzer's story's yet to be written. Are we going to buy Sabitzer? Aren't we going to buy Sabitzer? I would say straight away, if we're going to buy Sabitzer, he's just another bench midfielder. He's not benching Eriksen, he's not benching Bruno, and he's not benching Casemiro. And that, to me, whatever you think about Sabitzer, and I do like him, from what we've seen at the moment, if I'm making a decision right here, right now, and who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks, if I'm making a decision right here, right now, then Sabitzer is not benching Eriksen, Casemiro or Bruno. Well, that's a problem, because we need to bring in a player where you go, well, right, well, they've got to start. So who's going to get benched? What's going to happen here? And I think that's progression for Manchester United. Welcome says, what about Rabiot and a free? A few people mentioned Tielemans last night. I guess we'll have to wait and see. The next story this morning is Victor Osimhen. He's been speaking this weekend about his situation and basically bigging up Napoli, the club, the atmosphere, the players, and sort of some people have interpreted it that he's hinting that, you know, there's no reason for him to stay. There's absolutely no reason for Victor Osimhen to leave Napoli. They're going to win the title very, very comfortably in Italy. They should get to the final of the Champions League, even though we're only in the quarterfinals. The path to the final for them, I would put them as favourites. In the final, against a Real Madrid, a Man City, a Bayern Munich, or a Chelsea, I would think Napoli have got a chance. So, if he wins the Champions League and Serie A with Napoli, you know, you've done everything you're ever going to do with Napoli. Do you need to leave? Do you need to go? I think people get a bit obsessed with Osimhen, which I think our fan base is as well. He's often said he wants to play in the Premier League. He's definitely going to leave Napoli. It could be this summer. I think it will be this summer, but he could also have another year in Napoli. Like at Napoli, he could do that in Naples. So look, I don't know. I think the thing with Osimhen is it's almost irrelevant to focus on any comments that come out of Napoli or Osimhen at the moment, because their season's probably not going to end until the middle of June. The Champions League final's on the 10th of June, and they're not going to be selling or talking about selling him until, you know, the back end of June, because he's going to be partying for a couple of weeks, isn't he, if they win the Champions League. So the Osimhen deal, if it was going to happen, probably takes a long time. I mean, look, I've spoken openly about Harry Kane. There ain't no way Harry Kane is signing for Manchester United before we go on tour, and I don't think he'll sign for us before we play our first Premier League game. But Osimhen could be like that as well. I suppose it plays into our hands a little bit, because if we can sort the sale of the club out, Osimhen is not in talks with anybody, whether it's Chelsea, Real Madrid, Man United. There's no talks going on because Napoli won't talk to anyone at the moment, and quite rightly so. So I'm not massively concerned about where Osimhen's going to be next season. I don't think he's going to be at Man United anyway, but I think that they're having such a good season and their focus is on that, and his focus has to be on that. I'd love to sign him. As I said, my hunch is we'll sign Harry Kane, and my hunch is that Chelsea will end up with Victor Osimhen. But other than that, I wouldn't take a massive amount of notice from it, despite him talking the weekend positively about Napoli. On the sale update, a few people just are so hungry for this. I see certain journalists put a tweet out about something completely different, like golf, and they get inundated with sale updates. The update with the sale is that we're fingers crossed, hopefully going to get something someday this week, now that the Easter weekend is out of the way. The Athletic and Laurie Whitwell was saying that the Jimmy Murphy suite at Carrington has been sort of decked out in this sort of promotional sale of Manchester United room, where everybody was entertained over the last couple of weeks when they had like the Rain Group entertained like Sir Jim and Qatar. That has stayed set up. They've not took it down in case there's any more investor meetings. So, I mean, look, that's a tiny little update and a tiny little story, but it sort of updates where we're at with this. You know, there's people who have expressed interest. The Glazers haven't got the fee that they want, and they're sort of stuck in this limbo now of whether they go ahead with a bid or whether they still try to generate the money that they want. I think the best way of explaining the sale at the moment is anybody who's interested has probably offered around 5 billion. The Glazers want 6, and they're now going, can we get anyone else to come in and sort of boost this bidding war? Do we try and have another round where people knock it up? And Rain Group, I think the Rain Group are probably saying to the Glazers, we've had 2 rounds of bids and no one's getting anywhere near 6 billion. You can have another round of bids. You might get 5.1, but you might get 5.2, but you're not getting 5.5. So you either stop the sale or you go ahead with one of these lot and get on with it, and you know, or you just elongate the sale and just say the club's up for sale, we haven't had the bids that we wanted, and see if anyone comes in at some point in the next year. I think that's where we're at, and I think the Glazers have to be very careful about what they do, because if they delay this and say, look, the club's up for sale but we haven't had what we wanted, that's basically like saying, you know, we're greedy and we haven't got what we wanted, and everyone will react to that in a different way. So look, the sale, hopefully we get something this week, but yeah, I think that sort of summarises where we are. The Glazers just holding it up, and as Catherine says, it's the never-ending story in some ways. It's controlled by the Rain Group with a leaky roof, says Red. Just on a third transfer story before I want to get into a few other bits, a ridiculous player rating story I've got to give you. And also Carragher, we'll talk about him. Another one who bottles it. He never replies to me as well. What is it about Carragher and Neville that whenever I reply to them on Twitter, their arse twitches like a bunny's nose? They're terrified. Absolutely terrified. I don't know why. It's like if they reply to me, they know that I will win the argument. Surely they're paid a lot of money by Sky to go and have debates, and they're terrified. They're terrified of replying. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Glenny Boy says, hi Mark, it's my birthday today. Another year older, but none the wiser. Do you have any Goldbridge pearls of wisdom for me, please, says Glenny. Yeah, I think just enjoy every day as it comes. You know, we're here for a good time, not a long time. The older you get, the more you realise it's just a number. You know, there's things I do in my 40s that I didn't do in my 20s and I never would have done. So, you know, I think just, you know, whilst you've got your health, enjoy your life. And if you have not got your health, try and enjoy your life while you've got it. If they pull out the sale now, would it be considered as market manipulation, says Larry? I don't know. I don't know about the details of that, mate. Bit of an update over the weekend about David Raya. Obviously, we saw him at Old Trafford last Wednesday. I mean, it's only one game. I wasn't particularly impressed, to be honest with you. I didn't see this, you know, amazing distribution that people talk about. Watched a lot of games at the weekend. I thought Ramsdale's distribution at Anfield was shocking, but he made some brilliant saves. I think that, for me, is what football's all about with a goalkeeper. I thought Ramsdale's distribution was, you know, quite panicky at Anfield. They pressured him, but he made some wonderful saves. And I was just thinking there yesterday, if that had been a David De Gea performance, the David De Gea haters would have been clipping up all the bad kicks. But Ramsdale was man of the match for Arsenal. I just want a goalkeeper that can save, and we've got that with David. But David Raya is apparently going to be available for £30 million. He will not sign a new contract. Sorry, £35 million, 40 million euros. He will not sign a new contract at Brentford, and he's hoping for a bid from a top club. Look, David Raya at Manchester United is very, very welcome. I think with the ball at his feet, he's very good. You know, I think his control is almost like a number 10. But do you spend £35 million? Glenny Boy has just gifted 5 memberships. It should be the other way around because it's your birthday, but thank you very much, Glenny. You're a legend. Happy birthday to you. Do you go out and spend £35 million on a goalkeeper when you're going to keep David De Gea? It's debatable. Would he want to come to Manchester United when we've got David Raya? When we've got David De Gea. Not unless he's got assurances that he's going to be the number one, which I don't think anybody's going to get at Man United. So I don't see Man United signing David Raya. I don't see Manchester United signing Costa from Portugal. I just don't see that happening because I think the amount of money it would cost, and they wouldn't be guaranteed the number one shirt. I just can't see it happening unless David De Gea leaves. So look, these are good goalkeepers we're talking about. I know it ignites a confrontational argument with those who think we should change the goalkeeper, but I just don't think it's a priority this summer. I think we do need to bring a goalkeeper in. We do need a backup goalkeeper. I know I would like a younger goalkeeper that's still got a lot to learn that can become Man United's next goalkeeper, that you give them a fair bit of game time next season, you know, maybe some Champions League group games, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, maybe certain Premier League games. But I think I've always said this, if I'm giving David De Gea a new contract, one of the things I'm sitting him down and saying is, look, David, you've been a legend of this club. We need to transition. Look at what happened with Schmeichel. We didn't transition. It cost us years not having a goalkeeper until Edwin came in and then yourself came in. We want you to be part of that transition. We want to bring a goalkeeper in and we want you to, you know, nurture them, work with them and develop them so that when you do stop playing for us, your legacy is that you've had a part in creating the next Man United number one. Who you go and do that with, well, look, that's where you're going to take. That's where it's going to take some good scouting, definitely. Yeah, and I agree with Mark. Raya won't play second choice. No, he certainly won't. He certainly won't. What's the update on Rashford, Mark? Missed the beginning. Cheers. I've not done it yet, Martin, so we'll do that now, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things about this player ratings nonsense. So, Marcus Rashford, I think he put an Instagram post out saying that there's plenty more left in the tank, which is a positive update. The general update is that there has been a scan, and there is expected to be an update definitively today on what the extent of the damage is for Marcus Rashford. It may well be that the positive Instagram post is, you know, just a positive mindset, which I think is the way to be. If you're Rashford, you've had a brilliant season. This probably won't end your season, and you can come back and hopefully play in a couple of cup finals and get top four in the last few weeks of May. It could be a more long-term positivity that what will be will be. I'm still young. I'll be back at some point anyway, and I've had a good season. It could be a really positive update that after Saturday, you know, maybe Saturday evening, yesterday, he's felt a lot better and it doesn't feel as bad as maybe as it did on Saturday. So there's different levels of positivity, but I think a positive mindset's always a good thing, especially when you're in injuries, because, you know, they can drag you down, they can make you feel depressed because you're missing out. So I think we'll get an update today. I have no inside information on this. I don't think there is anybody that's got any inside information on this, apart from maybe Ten Hag and Rashford and the people close to them. I'm preparing myself for 3 to 5 weeks for Rashford. That's what I'm preparing myself for. I think that if you do that and it's anything less, it's a huge bonus. And if you set yourself for that, he should still be back before the end of the season. So let's just hope that Rashford is going to be back, because I think the big concern is, I don't agree with what Ricky said, that we'll be fine without Rashford. I don't agree with that. But Ricky has been saying that for a few weeks, even before Rashford was injured. I don't think we'll be fine without Rashford. But I think we will be okay without Rashford if Martial can stay fit. And that is going to be the big scenario. It's whether we can keep Anthony Martial fit, because if we can't, then I think that there is a concern there. There is. A few people saying check The Athletic. There's an update. We've already read this out, so we can repeat it for you. The set used to show presentations to Sheikh Jazim's group and Sir Jim Ratcliffe at Carrington has remained up for more than 3 weeks, and some have theorised that it is further talks can be held in case more bidders come forward. Well, we've already spoken about that, so that's not really an update in relation to that. There is also an Athletic story saying that a group of Premier League clubs are lobbying behind the scenes to block takeovers closely linked to nation states. Arsenal's Tim Lewis is a strong voice in the conversation as concerns grow around competitive balance. You know what you can do with that? And I don't care if anyone clips this up. So this story from The Athletic saying that Arsenal's Tim Lewis is a strong voice in the conversation about blocking clubs from takeovers closely linked to nation states. That's a bit like the referees apologising to Brighton. The horse has already bolted, Tim. What are you going to do about Saudi Arabia and Newcastle? What are you going to do about Man City and Abu Dhabi? Shut up, Tim, and sit down. You're not blocking these takeovers now. You can't stop Manchester United or Spurs or Liverpool or Chelsea or Everton from being taken over by nation states when Man City and Newcastle have already got it. Shut up, Tim, and sit down. Absolutely ridiculous. If you're going to bring something like that in, you've got to send Newcastle's owners and Man City's owners home, because otherwise they've got the monopoly on the league, Tim. Tim, nice but dim. I mean, what an absolute nonsense story. How can you block owners linked to nation states buying clubs when we've got 2 that already have it? Talking about competitive fairness, it's better if more clubs have ownership like Man City and Newcastle, because it makes it more fair. If you don't allow anybody else to have it, you basically give Newcastle and Man City the monopoly of the league for the next 50 years. Because they've got the super wealth and no one else can have it. What a stupid argument. I tell you what, the Premier League on the football pitch is the best league in the world, but the people running the clubs, the officiating, I just think it's been a circus this year. I think the officiating is a joke, and I think the people running football clubs are a joke. You've got Todd Bowley at Chelsea sacking 2 managers. There was a story this weekend that he's been talking to James Corden, the guy off Gavin and Stacey, about getting Frank Lampard in. I don't know whether it's true. It probably is. You got Leicester with 2 massive home games in a relegation fight, sacked their manager, put the milkman in charge. I mean, how many clubs have sacked their managers this year and not had a replacement? God, the only intelligence in football is you, the fans. Absolute prats. Oh, it's not fair. Let's stop everybody being bought by people who are really rich because it makes it unfair. Hello? Man City and Newcastle have already got it, Tim. What are you going to do about them? Well, at least no one else has got it. You've just made the league less competitive, Tim. The way to make the league more competitive is to get more billionaire owners in who can compete with Man City and Newcastle. You turbo prat. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What? You can't stop a Man United or an Everton or anyone else being bought by mega wealth because it's not fair. That's basically because Arsenal don't want that model. Idiots. Absolute idiots. It really winds me up. It really winds me up because they don't think it through. Man City and Newcastle already have that ownership. How can you stop everybody else having it when they've already got it? You're just giving them title after title after title. What's the update on Ahmad, Mark? He looks promising. Well, the update on Ahmad, CGI, is that he wants to come to Manchester United next season, or come back to Manchester United and really hit the ground running, which I think we're all very excited about. He's completed it, mate. You know, in between us, completed it, mate. Went to Sunderland, tore it up, completed it, mate. Completed the Championship. So his next step is, can he get into the Man United's plans for next season? And only Erik ten Hag can tell us that. Arsenal ground is the Emirates. Tim Pratt, says Lee Berman. I've never heard such nonsense in all my life. Although I have heard this. Pi, happy birthday. I have heard this. This is one for your Monday morning that's going to really... I've got to give Robert McCormack a shout out, because he sent me this and I thought, is he winding me up? Is he having a laugh? Is he having a laugh? He wasn't having a laugh. I went and checked this out. So many people say that Sky Sports has gone downhill. I would sort of agree with that. I think they focus too much on trying to be in with the youth. They want to be part of the YouTube crowd, but unfortunately they get a lot of shit YouTubers on. And it's become a comic. And as somebody who, you know, obviously we're on YouTube right now, but I think fan content peaked probably 5 years ago, where it had its time. And the ones that are successful now are the ones who've actually evolved, whereas the rest still think that it's all about having an argument about who's the crappiest player in the Premier League, and, you know, Saka versus Rashford and all that sort of childish stuff. And I think Sky sort of plays to that, and unfortunately they've absolutely outed themselves with these player ratings from the weekend. I mean, tell me you didn't watch the game by not telling me you didn't watch the game. These are the Man United player ratings from Sky Sports against Everton. I can't believe this. I cannot believe this is genuine on Sky, who pay billions over the years for Premier League footage. They have put these player ratings out. Take a deep breath, take a deep breath, sit down, get yourself calm, because you might go into orbit here. NASA might employ you as a rocket. These are genuine player ratings from Manchester United against Everton. Right, we're going to start off with the fact that Anthony Martial came off the bench and they gave him a 7, right? Martial got a 7 off the bench. Bruno Fernandes got a 6. Jadon Sancho got a 6. Anthony got a 6. And Wan-Bissaka got a 6. But Martial off the bench got a 7. Maguire got a 7. McTominay got a 7. Oh my God. So Martial, Maguire, McTominay got a 7. Bruno, Sancho, Anthony, Wan-Bissaka got a 6. Talk to me, Goose. I can't speak about this. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. What? You know what? I reckon Sky have rung up the reporter and he's out on the piss. He's out on the piss in Manchester City Centre. He can't be arsed. Oh, I'll just type in any old numbers. Bruno Fernandes, in his best game at Manchester United this season for me, gives him a 6. Anthony, in his best game in a Man United shirt, gives him a 6. But gives Maguire, McTominay and Martial 7. What? How's he getting paid? How are you getting paid for that? I want that job. I want to be the player ratings guy for Sky. I'm literally just going to not watch games and send random numbers in. I can't believe it. And it's genuine as well. That genuinely went on their website. Seek it out. Unbelievable. And don't talk to me about, well, Mark, you always say it's about opinion. It is all about opinion. Of course it is. And fair play to Sky for putting that opinion out there. But the thing about opinion is, it is open for scrutiny and debate. And I have to say, with total sincerity, I've never heard such shite in all my life, or read such shite. Bruno Fernandes was man of the match. Anthony and Sancho played really well, and Wan-Bissaka was brilliant. You cannot give those 4 players a 6 and give McTominay, Maguire and Martial a 7. And I'm not saying that those players were bad, but nobody saw that game. Nobody saw a game where Martial, Maguire and McTominay were a 7 and Wan-Bissaka, Bruno, Sancho and Anthony were a 6. Nobody saw that game. Nobody saw it. Madness. Absolute madness. Tash says, can you please wish Paul a happy birthday? He loves United and the show and has got to put up with his daughter supporting Liverpool. Oh, Tash, how's he let that happen? What's gone on there? Whose fault's that? Paul, I can't believe it. That's almost as bad as those player ratings. How do you support Man United and your daughter supports Liverpool? What? That's got my attention. How has that happened? What's going on? I can't believe it. What is going on there? How's that happened? Were you like in the army or something? You had to go away for a few years or something. What's going on? Has he been in a coma? How has that happened? How's your kid supporting Liverpool when you're a Man United fan? What's going on? I can't believe it. What's going on? I feel like it's April Fool's Day or something. Anyway, look, a lot of people are getting involved in the chat, which is great to see. But look, these these player ratings are weird. I thought Bruno played really well against Brentford and he got a 6. Look, the reason I bring it up is because obviously I gave Maguire a 5.5 at the weekend, and I told you why. I felt he made 3 big mistakes that could have cost us goals, and I didn't think he deserved a 6, so I gave him a 5.5. Got a lot of stick for it. That's absolutely fine. But my point is, if you want to know about agenda, look at some of the mainstream player ratings, listen to some of the mainstream punditry and analysis. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And it's driven... I think actually a lot of ex-players and a lot of players are driven by jealousy and bitterness. You can tell certain ex-players don't like certain players and they constantly try and dig them out. Certain Man United players do it. I'm not here to call them out today. That's not what I'm going to do. But I listen to a lot of ex-United players. You can tell the players they like and you can tell the players they don't like. And sometimes they like players that aren't very good and they big them up. And they dislike players that are good and they constantly have a pop at them. That's agenda. That's bitterness. And I think that, we've heard... I replied to Carragher today trying to say that Van Dijk's better than Vidic. But Rio and Terry are all right, but Van Dijk's better than Vidic. And I thought, here we go, the British bias again. Terry's got a British passport. Rio's got a British passport. Carragher's got a British passport. Van Dijk's better than Vidic. Well, hello, Rio. And hello, John. And hello, Jamie. I've always had Vidic as one of my favourite ever players for Man United. So I actually think Vidic is more valuable and a better player than Rio. Rio was technically very good, but Vidic would headbutt a wall. Like, he was brilliant. Brilliant leader. Brilliant crosses into the box. Winning headers. I loved Vidic. I'd take Vidic over any centre-back in the Premier League because he would literally die for you. Absolutely brilliant centre-back. So when Jamie starts talking about Van Dijk being better than Vidic, you're challenging who I think is the best centre-back in the Premier League history. Sober up, mate. You're pissed. But it's British bias again, isn't it? People start moaning about, why did you do this? Why do you do that? Maybe I don't know, but we're infected by the mainstream's bias more than we are from the conversations that we have. At least when we're having the conversations, you actually get the other side. If I said to you, Bruno Fernandes was rubbish on Saturday, I wouldn't have even given him a 3. The chat's going to go mad, and there's going to be a debate. But with them, it's just a free blah, blah. Mark, your football knowledge is stuck in the 90s. You don't understand the modern game. Maguire was a 7, says Pogba. But you're more than welcome to detail to me why he's a 7, but I don't agree with you. Joseph says Paul's not the father. He doesn't want to hear that on his birthday, Joseph. That's disgusting. Boo! Joke or not, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. It's my dad's birthday. Wish him a happy birthday, says Life. If it's your birthday today, happy birthday. I think that helps, doesn't it? Well done. Happy birthday for that there. But look, a very energetic show this morning. Lots to go through and lots to get involved in. But, ultimately, we await the update on Marcus Rashford. And I hope it's not going to take too long to get it. I think it's something that's obviously occupying a lot of United fans' minds at the moment. As I said, I'm just going to focus on the next 3 to 5 weeks and see what happens with that. But I don't think he's playing on Thursday, regardless, and I think it will be a bit longer. Bjorn says BBC Team of the Week had Scott McTominay as the only player over Bruno. Look, we can't lose our patience on stuff like this. We live in a world where Bruno Fernandes is disliked by the mainstream media. Why do they dislike him? Is it because he's Portuguese? Is it because they don't like his face? I don't know. But it's not for footballing reasons. Because he was brilliant on Saturday. Absolutely brilliant, out of position. If you can't put him in Team of the Week, you need to have a long, hard look at yourself and say, why aren't you doing it? Because it's not footballing reasons. And that's why people are becoming impatient with mainstream, because for years and years and years and years, they've had the total and utter domination of your thoughts. You know, there was no Twitter, there was no YouTube, there was no internet at points, and they've had they're the same people who are producing these shows were doing it 30 years ago, and basically they were like the kingmaker. Whatever we decide to talk about, whatever we want to talk about, they'll just have to swallow it, and people won't swallow it anymore. They're like, why are you doing this? Why are you giving these player ratings? Why are you excluding Bruno from Team of the Week? Because you're bitter and biased. It's a nonsense. I don't care what anybody thinks about Bruno Fernandes. He was definitely man of the match at the weekend, 100%. I don't care what anyone thinks about Wan-Bissaka. I think that was probably one of his best games for Manchester United. I thought he was magnificent. And certainly Sancho and Antony had very, 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 very good games. So how they're getting average sixes, I don't know. But again, I think people want to... I think outside of Man United, and maybe some fans in Man United, they want to create this story that £75 million Sancho and £85 million Antony are flops, because that's the story that makes them happy. They don't want to tell the story that these are two players that are taking their time to understand what being a Man United player is and find their place at Manchester United, because that is the story, but that's not the story they want to show. You know, Bonglahor can't shut up about Antony. He lives up the arse of Grealish, but he can't shut up about Antony. Oh, I'm right about Antony. I'm right. He's not from North. He's from Birmingham, isn't he? But he can't shut up about Antony. Never takes Antony out of his mouth. I wonder if he spoke positively about Antony at the weekend, because that's his best game in a Man United shirt. No, he'll wait for the... It's like the De Gea crew. No one will speak positively when De Gea played that ball through to Antony that he should have scored. They'll be waiting for the next time the next time De Gea kicks it out of play. That is agenda, and we're tired of it. We're tired of it. I tell you what, if Harry Maguire scores against Sevilla at the weekend, Forest at the weekend, and we win 1-0, I'll give him an 8, and I'll give him man of the match. And no part of me will be going, oh, I can't do it. I can't say the word 8. I just want to say the word hate. You know, I would happily give Maguire an 8 if he plays that well, happily. Because I just want Man United to win. But so many people out there, they're just... And the Bruno one's just the tip of the iceberg. Some people just cannot acknowledge that Bruno's a good player. But the great thing about this is we're all aware of it and we'll just call it out. And that's why when you reply to Carragher about his Vidic nonsense, he reads it and he goes, I don't want any of that heat. I don't want any of that because I'm going to get battered in an argument here. So I'll just hide with Gary on mainstream and pretend and, you know, get my medals out, but actually I don't really want any of the heat of real conversation because I'll get exposed and so will my bitterness. And that's the world we're living in, and that's why they're uncomfortable. So well done to everyone. He replied to someone else as Robert McCormack. Of course he did. They're cut from the same cloth. They're terrified, and I find it funny. I think it's really funny how they won't have the proper debate, because ultimately they're terrified. They've probably got their agent saying, do not reply to that Goldbridge because he's a prat, but actually don't reply because he will win and it will undermine you. And at the moment we need you up here because we know what happened with other incidents. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Cracking show this morning. I love it when it gets pumped up a little bit. That's what she said. But we've covered everything. We're not going back about TakeOver or Rashford or anything. We've covered everything. It's been a great show. If you've tuned in late, watch it from the start. What a show. What a community. Absolutely incredible. Loved it. Let's hope we can keep this up later on. We will be back live at 8 o'clock. But what an array of topics. I liked the Tim Nut but nice but dim bit. I love the player ratings bit. I like the transfer bit. What great conversation. Don't have a good day. Have a great day. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.